It's a beautiful day to blaze some good, a beautiful day to blaze some good. Would you be kind? Please light mine.
Roll up.
All right. So, welcome today to YouTube portion of the Beans and Green podcast. And if you don't already know, the second half of this is going to be on Patreon. I'll list the link. And, real quick, if anybody's watching this, I'm going to go through the whole spiel of asking for subscriptions and likes and all that shit, comments or whatever. But, yeah. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and get the subscriptions going, if you don't mind. I got a lot of shit already on my page, and I'm going to have more shit to come. Better shit. Production's going to get better. So my goal, the immediate goal is 1,000 subscribers so I could monetize the page. So definitely something I would greatly appreciate anybody watching this. If you're not already subscribed, just go ahead and subscribe. Which most people looking at this aren't subscribed. So anyway, I go through a whole spiel and shit. I always thought I don't need to do that. People know, you put the stuff out there. Go ahead and subscribe. But I guess you gotta ask for what you want. And then what they say, closed mouth don't get fed. So hit the fucking subscribe button. The fuck. Anyway, yeah, today's movie was it was some straight bullshit. I ain't even gonna front. So we're talking about Idiocracy. Now, with the last two movies I reviewed on the podcast, it was sort of what I would say is a metaphor for life. I guess all of them are, but all the other movies you can see direct ties to things going on. Whereas Weekend at Bernie's, it was just more, like I said, metaphorical. So it didn't have direct ties. So I thought that this movie was the same. But no, it's exactly what's going on. And there are so many sort of parallels to Demolition Man. And I'll expound upon that in a little bit. But yeah, before watching it now, I seen like bits and pieces of it, but I could never get myself to watch this movie, and I definitely did have a hard time watching this bullshit. But it was so much. There was so much. First off, I gotta say, I definitely one of the. I don't really have a lot of like crushes of women in Hollywood because they don't. They'll have like a pretty face, but the body's kind of suspect, or the body's talking about bodies. But I was never. There's a few throughout time that I like, but it was I usually prefer girls I can see every day. You know what I mean? But Maya Rudolph, I always thought she was. They never really gave her props for being. But I think she's like. Let me see something. Yeah, she had those freckles. Yeah, so she was half black, half Jewish. But you have a lot like Slash. Slash is one. Lenny Kravitz. Maya Rudolph. Let's see. What is it? Yeah, there's one. This is like Thandie Newton. Yeah. Yeah, there's one in particular I'm looking for. I forgot her name, but she was like Nigerian. Let's see. Anyway, I don't know why I'm looking. There's this one particular actress, but anyway, I'm over here just sort of creeping out over Maya Rudolph. But no, she was definitely sexy back. I mean, still now, she all she did was get older, but she got those freckles and yeah, definitely could have been a sex symbol. But anyway, yeah, this movie was stark with parallels, and it's crazy, right? So, bring up my notes. So, one of the things that we see in the beginning, a lot of talk about, again, going back into other movies, population control, right? And that's what that's what's sort of an underlying theme in it, especially towards the beginning, and they showed it as if the rich couples, the smart people, they decided to wait to have a baby until it was the right time because the economy didn't lend itself to people having children. And then you see what they call the lower class having all types of children, and you really see a lot of the Jerry Springer effect going on, right? Where the one guy, he was getting his wife pregnant for like the eighth time, but then he was also getting the neighbor girl pregnant, and it was just a lot of idiot shit. And see, I was thinking of maybe showing clips of people displaying the idiocracy. I prefer not to do that. I don't want to put anything particular, but this movie definitely did show that. Now there's actually a song from Lindemann, Linderman. I was watching Heroes, but Lindemann, he's from Rammstein. He did a solo project, and there's a song called "Praise Abort," which he's eugenicist, which is weird for we call him eugenicist, but eugenicists, they love their abortions, and in the video for this song, sort of gave that same sort of view of sort of like a lower class, not savory, the whole just trailer park. And in Lindemann's case, it was more a combination of trailer park, a combination of hood type of guy, having all types of babies and it being sort of unsavory. They always sort of push that ideology in movies. And one of the things that we see a lot going on now is you have these sort of boss babes, rich women, your higher class women, and they decided to, okay, we're not gonna have baby now, but we'll have one in the future, and we'll freeze the eggs. That's I don't know. And this whole idea, it's really weird. This whole idea, eugenics idea, of people being unqualified to have children, or especially because of monetary means, and that's one of the themes in here, right? Because this is basically a eugenics movie. Because one of the themes they talk about in the beginning is the brightest and the strongest and the smartest were creating children, and now it was the unqualified, the weakest, the not so smart. I hate to go into descriptions of these people, such like as is low class. I hate that, but that's one of the things that was referenced in the movie. And then they kept populating, and as they populated, the world got dumber and dumber and dumber. I mean, so this whole idea, it's a eugenics idea that overpopulation, of course, reduces the amount of resources that are available to everybody. But in the movie's implying that, overpopulation's dumbing down the world. I don't. Yeah, I don't understand how people can sort of create these parallels, or how people such as us would be able to or believe in these parallels. Because, okay, so they talk about too many people on the planet, right? So what do they do about that? And it's the whole idea is to even say that there's too many people being born. It's like, who makes that determination that life is so meaningless that these people don't need to be? And you hear that a lot. I hear there's a couple of comedians that like to sort of spread that idea. One being Bill Burr. I haven't listened to too much of his comedy as of late, but he, in a lot of his comedies, in a lot of interviews and stuff, he was definitely one of those people that would always talk about the world being overpopulated. Who determines that? And who determines the effects of this so-called overpopulation? Because if it's an issue of resources, don't we understand that the people running the world, the power system, they're hoarding all the resources and only leaving us a limited amount of resources to fight for. So they're the ones to determine that the world is overpopulated. So then they're the ones who determines what to do about this overpopulation, right? And there are many things that we're seeing being done. First off, interactions, relationships, marriages between men and women have been so, I mean, they destroyed that connection, and they've made it seem like having children, at least as far as if you go with the feminist ideology, which is honestly is one of the things that you want to destroy, you want to reduce population, and you cause that strife between men and women, right? Now with feminism takes all of the things that creates a society, all of the things that women have done all this time, and it makes it as something that's negative towards the betterment of women. And of course, abortion is oh, that's health for women. That's healthcare for women. That's a positive thing. But having children is now seemed as having children, doing domestic labor, as you will, is seen as a form of slavery for women. Okay, wow. So now people are making babies. It's another way, right? The killer of population. Well, we have these things called diseases, right? Dis-ease. That's what disease basically means. If you break down the etymology of the word, right? Dis-ease. And one of the ways you fight a disease is with medicine, right? So all over the news, all over TV, you have all these different medicines for all these different ailments, right? They all have different side effects. A lot of times, it's even worse than what you're going for help with these medicines, pills. And then you have viruses, and of course we dealt with COVID, right? And the COVID shot. A lot of people dying from that, right? And it's crazy because one of the things that it's hard to go into it, but one of the things that they say it happens inside of a human when you take that shot is I'm not even going to it, fuck it, because that's a whole nother video. But either way, that's part of it, right? Here's the other thing. In order to control population, you go after the things that, it's the things that most humans need, right? Food. Now, if you don't know, basic food can be seen as poisonous. And right now we're going through this outbreak that seemingly coming from Taco Bell. Don't know if that's the case, but then because I've also seen they're talking about it in the water supply. Also seen them talk about it being in like lettuce and all your veggies, and so you're supposed to now wash your food. Even that won't work, because if the parasite's in the water, you're going to be just introducing the parasites into your food, even if it may not have it. And if it did have it, then you just double down. So they say you got to cook your food. So anything that you would eat raw, you got to cook. So allegedly coming from Taco Bell, right? Now this parasite gives explosive diarrhea, and it's frequent. So one day they reported going to the bathroom like 40 times with the super shits. That's basically what it is the super shits. That's so fucked up. The super shits. What the fuck are they doing to people, man? And again, this has to go back. I personally don't believe in coincidences. So you can believe the official narrative, which they really didn't give a definitive narrative. They keep saying different things, right? But the one thing we know for sure is this is another toxin released into society to help with eugenics. Now, let's look at the movie. What happened through time is that the food supply I've obviously. I I'm saying I'm thinking reduced, but it was just totally wiped out because what were they doing? They were poisoning their food with this generic fucking Gatorade shit, right? I mean, with Monsanto, and we know Bill Gates had owns farmland and things like that, and all different companies releasing toxins into the water supply and in the air. At some point, there will be no food supply or the ability to create and grow crops, and then animals won't have food to feed, and they'll die off, right? Eugenics. That is very much so a theme in this movie. Another one too that is really weird. Right when the main character wakes up and he ends up in an apartment, right? And you guys see the movie and you'll see what I'm talking about. One of the things we noticed that the one of the main guys, I think his name is Dax in real life, right? He's sitting down watching a show, and it's very reminiscent of Jackass. And the guy's just going to get his spends his whole time getting his balls knocked in all kinds of ways. They beating his balls up. Pause. They beat this man's balls up for sport all through the movie. Well, in the parks that he was in, and he could just be chilling, and the motherfuckers come up, whap, a whole foot square, dick and balls. See, these TV shows, these movies, they're laying the groundwork for a future. This is showing the deterioration of smart people, right? And I love Jackass. I would never do none of this shit that's in there, but you can see how it's contributing to that. You got like Jackass, you got like Jerry Springer, you have all of the different reality shows, and you see a difference in people. Again, this is something I mentioned in the YouTube, in the Patreon portion of the video. You start noticing patterns. Actually, I mentioned it in the last video, but either way, when you open your eyes to what's going on, you start seeing these things. You start seeing patterns, and that's sort of how I came to the podcast, because I see these patterns in these movies. You know what I mean? And you see them, and you can never see them again. You can never not see them again. All right. The other thing to that is you can't make other people see it, because Idiocracy was a popular movie. People saw the movie, but what happens is people don't see their own actions in these movies, or maybe they do, but it doesn't change how they think. In fact, it sort of reinforces sort of those negative tropes in these movies, and people sort of seem to gravitate towards that. Now, another thing too, which is again part of this whole, not just the eugenics, but then also just the surveillance state. Everybody in that movie was barcoded. Now we have social security numbers, which essentially is basically that number that's listed under the barcode. Only we don't have the bar. We just have that number, which is essentially a barcode. Now, one of the it's crazy. one of the things I'm sort of mentioning is about the food supply. The food supply and just all of their drinking needs were met by sort of a generic Gatorade brand, a company that had this generic Gatorade. And all the fountains, the water fountains, had this generic Gatorade. I think it was called Brando. Brando. It basically was the replacement for water. And how this company was able to implement such a thing would they bought out it stated that they bought out the FDA, they bought out the FCC. And what was the other body that they bought out? Well, basically the FDA and the FCC and government organizations. And what they did was they deemed water as what was the word? Water was a block to the profit margin. So as long as there was water, it cut into their profits. So by buying out all these regulatory companies or regulatory bodies within government, they were able to get them to replace water with their form of Gatorade, Brando. Now again, this is what I was mentioning earlier about a parallel to another movie, because we saw in Demolition Man, right, all these corporations were branding and were now sort of part of life in a way where it was more common to go eat in Demolition Man. It was Taco Bell. In this movie, there's a few different ones. Carl's Jr. Let's see, they had Costco. You had Brando, which I guess they couldn't use Gatorade. So and there were a few, like it was just crazy how corporations basically ran the country. It wasn't about laws. It wasn't about companies that helped people. It was the big corporations, and you had to follow the corporate laws. Now, what we're seeing in society is we're being moved into that sort of social change through corporate takeover of social structures, through the implementation of medicines, right? Through the introduction of parasites and poisons into the food supply, through the trying to figure out the best way to say this, through the sort of fight between men and women, through all these different social aspects, we're being herded into that. And then one thing about these movies, right? You see this in a lot of movies. Let's go to another movie, show a parallel. Soylent Green, right? What were women reduced to? And it's all these movies, they were reduced to sex objects, to prostitutes, right? And underlying theme in every movie is economics. It's all about the economics. Now, in this movie, you don't really see a power structure beyond the president, who was Terry Crews. Ugh. Okay. So the idea of the movie was that everywhere was this deterioration in the social structures. There's so much about life is put into these movies for people to see. And one thing I'm starting to see or feel, right? It's for every picture you put on the internet, every visual you take in, it starts to eat a part of your soul. And that sort of degradation is leading to just straight devastation. It's need to have that moment where in the movie people start to realize that, hey, what we've been doing is not working. Yeah. Like I said, I thought this would be a fun movie. This was really more depressing. The day is long, sun is hot. Might as well smoke if you got some pot. I'm out.